Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. We'll just give everyone a couple of seconds to start joining in. You guys can give us like a thumbs up that you can hear us, or if you can't, if you have a hard time hearing us, just comment in the section below. So let's go ahead and start with introductions. So we have two awesome guests with us today. And we have Ken Coleman, the host of the Ken Coleman Show on SiriusXM. And we also have Julie Danielson. She's a senior IT manager just down the street at Asurion. So if you guys want to give a quick introduction of yourself.
Well, you just did a great job. So I'm Ken, and in short, the Ken Coleman Show is completely focused on one caller at a time, 5 days a week on SiriusXM channel 132. The specific focus is, what were you created to do? And then once you realize and discover what it is that you were created to do as it relates to your work and your occupation, and how do you make that dream a reality? Because we all long to do work that matters deeply to us, and that is ultimately the meaning and significance that we get as human beings. Do I matter? Do I have what it takes? And so we're committed to helping people figure that out. A lot of people calling in every day and one call at a time, giving people clarity so that they can step forward confidently on the path to fulfilling their purpose. So that's what we do, and it's fun to be here today.
Yeah, awesome. I've heard the show a couple of times, Ken, and it's great.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And Julie?
Hi, Julie Danielson. She said, work for Asurion. I've been there 7 years. I'm a IT dev manager, so I have a team of developers, architects, both U.S. and in the Philippines. And so we support clients on the business side with their technology needs. And I'm committed to my team and the company and helping everybody grow and develop.
Awesome. And by the way, I'm Beth McCart, one of the co-founders of WomenGetIT. And we're happy to have you join us. We have a team with us here today, so if you're streaming on Instagram, hello, let us know where you're at, where you're located, or we're also streaming on Facebook, and we're live tweeting. So if you guys have any questions for our panelists, start asking away. We'll try to get as many questions as we possibly can. Today we're going to be talking about cultivating your career. I've talked to thousands of women in terms of coaching and mentoring them, and a lot of them are just like, I just don't know how to get started, right? And one of the things that we talk about a lot is like the 3 E's. So the education, the exposure, and the experience. So I want to talk about that first. Which one do you think is most important, and which one do you think that our audience, these women, can focus on?
I guess for me, education is very important. Experience is important, and sometimes you can't get that experience without exposure. So that kind of leads me to exposure. I would say in cultivating my career, that was critical. I started my career actually 6 months out of high school, started working for an office furniture manufacturer, and I literally started at ground zero, I'll say. I was in the mailroom. But not only, exposing myself to things and different things, but it's also getting exposure. So, it really led me to the path from Iowa to Nashville to this position at Asurion, and just getting myself exposed, getting out of my comfort zone, right? Being here, getting myself out of my comfort zone. But you need to do that. And I encourage my team, my children, networking is very key as well. So organizations like WomenGetIT, WIT, I'm advocate and on the board there. It's very important that you network and expose yourself and meet other people. And it really helps your career.
Yeah, I think exposure is key. And a lot of women share your story, Julie. It's like, oh, I got into IT by accident. And it was like this thing that happened organically. And one of the things that I am a big believer in, and I know you are as a part of WIT in that organization, is like, how do we get more women to do this on purpose,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
And not just kind of fall into it, oh, it's just I happen to have exposure. Like, let's be intentional about it. So I love that. Ken?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that if you had to pick one of the three that's most important to really focus your efforts on, there's no question that exposure is it. And the reason is because you know this, and you know this well. There are a lot of educated and experienced women out there and men who don't get where they want to go. Tons of education, tons of experience. But if you don't put yourself in proximity, which is where exposure happens, and I love that you addressed both sides of this word exposure. It's not just you putting yourself out there where people can see what you can do and what value you can bring. It is ultimately, first and foremost, about you being around people and in the right places. So I call this the proximity principle. And the proximity principle I made up based on my career journey. And the proximity principle says this: in order to do what I want to do, I've got to be around people who are doing it and in places that it is happening. And that's where we see that two-sided, exposure, where again, I'm putting myself in the environment that I need to be in, the right place where the right people are, or I get around the right people and they help me get in the right places. And people, places, that's how you get yourself in a position to actually learn and observe, and then someone says, okay, you've been doing what it takes, you're right where you need to be, and opportunity finds us when we're in the right place. Don't ever worry about the right time, because that'll drive you mad. But if you get in the right place with that proximity principle, the right opportunity is going to find you. And I love that you mentioned organic, because that's where organic things happen, but intentional. I'm going to get myself in the right place, and then that organic thing that we talk about, well, it just kind of organically happened. No, it kind of did. You're in the right place where the right people are, and that's how opportunity comes your way every time. And if we think about that on a daily basis, it takes out all the mystery and all the anxiety about getting where you want to go.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes ever is the definition of lucky.
Oh,
when opportunity meets proximity.
That's right.
And preparation. So it's really important that, I love that you mentioned timing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not up to us about when the timing happens, or it will drive you absolutely mad. By the way, if you're just tuning in, we are taking questions from the audience. So I think we have a question. Mary Hope, is there something over on Twitter?
Yes. If you aren't getting the exposure you need in your company, how do you know when it's time to leave?
Okay, so the question was, I don't know if everyone heard, if you aren't getting the exposure, so we said that was the most important thing, at your current company, when do you know it's time to leave? Does anyone want to take that one?
I can jump in on that, and you can add whatever you want. I think what you have to look at there are some specific questions. And I want to start with, why am I not getting opportunity? So that's essentially what we're talking about.
Right.
Exposure simply means opportunity, and I'm not getting the opportunities that I want. And so I want to know why. So the first place to start there is to your leader. And you got to go in with a posture of humility here. You don't walk in guns blazing. I deserve this. I deserve that. I've been waiting. I've been patient. How come it hasn't come to me? No, it's, hey, I long to do this. This is something I would love to do, and that opportunity hasn't come yet. Can you tell me, can you give me some insight, maybe some things that I'm not seeing, or help me see a path to that opportunity? You see the difference there? It's a posture play. And so you want to say, hey, I'm looking for opportunities like this. What's the best path? What's the ladder look like? I'd start with that question. Because what's going to happen is when you pose that question, you're going to find out, do I have a healthy leader and a healthy culture where they actually tell me the truth? And they say, glad you asked. You need to work on this, this, and this. And if you do this, I think that we can see that opportunity. Or if they stonewall you, right, or stiff arm you, and they kick the can down the road, as it were, and you keep bringing it back up, and they never give you. I get callers like this on the show all the time. Well, I talked to my leader about it, and he or she says they're going to do something, and then it's 6 months, and that's a sign. So clear communication from your end in the form of a question, that's going to let you know where you stand. And if you're not getting real clear answers as to what a path forward looks like for you, or how can you get the opportunities to prove yourself, and if they don't present themselves after you've handled it that way, I would say it's time to move on. Because you're not in a culture that is either A, healthy, B, the leaders don't believe in you, and so there's only so much you can do.
Right.
Now it's time to move on.
Right. Julie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say kind of your B point, my prior company, I felt like I was getting myself out there and kind of stuck and not really having that leadership there to help me. And so I determined, hey, what's the next step for me? And it really was to leave the company and expose myself to a brand new opportunity and actually a couple new opportunities. And it's all a path, right? So that's just kind of my experience with that.
Awesome. Do we have a question from Instagram too?
Yeah, so the web dev wants to know, he's a web developer, but people say it's a useless field. What should he do about that?
A web developer, that's a useless. Well, we're hiring plenty of
I was going to say, if
Where
you'd like
do
to
you
drop
live?
my name, I'd love the bounty here at Ranger Solutions.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, just to answer that question, as it has come in, I would stop listening to whoever that person is that's telling you that, because it's just an absolute untruth. I'm going to put that as mildly as I can. So I don't know if that person is a trustworthy source in your life or why that statement has been made to you, but if that is in fact what you're being told, it's just not true.
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll get you a job.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Awesome. Are we good to move on to the next one? Any more questions? Okay, cool. All right, so the second question that I have for you guys, what do you do when you get stuck in your career? I get this question a lot from our members. So you want to start with that one?
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. It kind of comes back to what you had said before. Why am I stuck? Is it because maybe I've lost some passion in what I'm doing? And, we do that in our careers. You get kind of tired per se. Or are you stuck because somebody else, you feel like you're being held down? So, you need to evaluate that. And then what is your next step? So kind of what I referenced before, hey, I felt stuck in my prior company and decided I can do this better on my own, and took a chance and started my own consulting firm. And then, there's other times in my career where I feel a little stuck, that I'm out there going, hey, I'm going to do something about this. What's that next opportunity, and start kind of networking within the company. And that led me to the position I'm in right now. So
I think the number one question you ask when you feel stuck is, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Many of you in the corporate space have heard, the idea of a purpose statement, which we see with a lot of companies. Here's our purpose statement. But purpose for an individual and a company answers the question, why? Why am I here on the planet, if we're individualizing it? In a corporate setting for an organization, it's why are we here? Why are we on the planet to do what we're doing? And so it answers the question, why? Purpose is why. So when you get into that question of why am I doing what I'm doing, if you're honest, here's what you're going to find out. You're going to answer the question, why am I doing this? Well, it was a good job. And it was a job that made sense with the major. And the major I got was because my mom and dad said this would be a good school to go to, and I didn't know what else to do. And Kiplinger's put out a magazine that said this was one of the top 10 majors. I mean, this is what a why question does. Why am I doing what I'm doing? It can go that deep, and quite frankly, it should when you feel stuck. Because we want to get behind why the feeling of stuck. And this is important to really stress this idea of feeling for a moment. Sometimes your feeling is not a fact. So you might feel stuck because the scenario I just gave you, which is what I deal with a lot on my show. People who there's no passion in it. They don't love the work that they do. They're good at it, and it provides them a good living. So talent is not enough. You got to have passion. Passion is not enough either, right? You got to have talent. So if we look into the why, we might find out that I'm actually doing the right thing. I'm not stuck in my career. I'm stuck in the wrong place. This happens a lot. We find out that I'm feeling stuck because I've got a bad leader, or I've got a toxic environment around me through either team members or the overall culture. So in that situation, if you go, why am I feeling stuck? Because I just don't want to come in and be around these people. Oh, so it's not the work, it's the place. So you're doing the right thing in the wrong place, and now you want to move on. Or it could be, hey, I've never had any passion for this. I'm just good at it. I got the degree. It was a good job. I played this thing out, and I never said, what is it that I really want to do with my life? So that why question, and it's got to be asked about 6 or 7 times, I find, because it keeps going lower and lower, and it gets to the real source of why you're feeling stuck. Is it a personal issue? Is it a people issue? Or is it a professional issue? That's what you got to look at.
Yeah, and also like the way you said it, also, it could be the position that you're doing. It could be that you're not passionate about what you're doing day to day and what your job responsibilities are, but it could be the culture.
Mm-hmm,
so
absolutely.
If the culture is right, like, let's go look for other positions within the company, right? Because the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and you could be in a worse situation if you moved. So I think those are excellent points.
I mean, one of the things that I listed it out, but I didn't explain it in the scenario, and that's the personal issue. It could be that maybe you're not where you want to be financially. Here at Ramsey Solutions, we help so many people get out of debt.
Right.
And some people will let their personal situation bleed into their professional situation, and you feel stuck where you're actually doing what you love, and you're getting paid pretty darn well, but it's not enough because you made some poor financial decisions. Or maybe you've got a bad relationship issue, a marriage issue, and you don't feel the self-worth from that standpoint, and it's bleeding in your job. So that why will also maybe weed out, hey, I'm just going through some personal stuff, and if I were to leave this job, it would be a disastrous situation, making a personal situation even worse. So that's where you have to figure out what's causing you to feel stuck. It's an emotion. It's not a reality.
Right. Excellent. Awesome. Any more questions, or do we move on to the third? Mary Hope, is there anything over there on Twitter? We're good? Okay. All right, so the third question that I have, this is actually my favorite question. So, what if the position that you have does not exist? How do you go about, talking to leadership or figuring out to create like a position specifically for you?
You want to start?
Well, I'll definitely be interested in what you have to say. I guess, through Asurion, the growth, there's been a lot of changes. I've been through a lot of work changes, and, there was a time where my path was kind of leading me to an area I wasn't comfortable in, not necessarily comfortable, it just, there wasn't the passion there to go that way. And so there was an opportunity to say, hey, I would love to try out a dev manager role. While I worked with developers, I never really managed them, and I'm not a developer. Hey, I think there's an opportunity for me to take this job and manage these people, which is the team that I was actually moving away from and love. And how about if I manage them for you? And kind of take that off of you. And it actually ended up happening, and I'm glad. It was definitely the right path for me. But that's kind of my experience with that. Of course, I have other jobs that kind of those passion jobs out there I love to create, but I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, I think there's three things that you have to do when you're going to create a new position that doesn't exist. And it's basically a simple vision casting formula. Because think about the scenario here. You're trying to go to your leadership and say, I want this role that doesn't exist, and I want you to allow me to do that. And if you just leave it there, it creates all types of discomfort and all kinds of pushback, because change, remember, change is very freaky for a lot of leaders and people in general. So there's a three-part formula. So you got this idea for a role that you want your leadership to create for you to fill. So you got to go at it three ways. The first thing is you got to define the problem. So you go to them and you go, I've seen a problem, and this is the problem. Define it very clearly. Secondly, you go, now here's the solution to this problem that I've observed. And then the third thing is, here's the reason for the solution. And your role is all three, right? Your role is going to be the solution or a part of the solution. You're saying essentially that this role that I am thinking of, because I saw a clear problem and I know what the solution is, and here's the reason for the solution. So now that you've laid it out, and that makes sense to people because they see here's a problem. So it's either a revenue problem or a people problem. And here's the solution. And when we solve people problems or revenue problems, that helps the company, all right? Either reducing cost or increasing margin. And then, and so you're laying it all out. So this is the reason, because we want to, and you specifically say, this is going to fix this people problem or process problem, or it's going to create new product and new revenue. That's the reason for the solution. And this role that you want to create is going to make all that a reality. What they care about are reasons and solutions. That's what they care about. If you just come with a problem, that's not helping them. You got to show them that you've thought ahead by that 3-part construct, and then that the role that you're suggesting they create for you is a part of the solution. And if you do that, now you've presented them with something where if they okay that and they greenlight that, they get a lot of credit.
Yeah.
And so that's the smart way of going about pitching or creating a new job that doesn't exist.
That's great. I think we could sit here all day like talking about this stuff. This is great stuff. So a couple of things before we wrap up. Our next Facebook Live is going to be on July 10th. So that is a Tuesday right after the 4th. So we look forward to seeing our online community back for that panel. So look out for details for that. For our Nashville folks, there's about 1,000 of you who are involved in Women Get It locally here. Our next live mentoring event is going to be Thursday, July 19th, and that's going to be in Franklin at Schneider Electric. So we look forward to seeing you out for that. That's always a great event. Right now we have a buy one, get one half off ticket offer for this month only. So make sure you get your tickets before the end of the month. And we're trying to encourage people to bring their bestie to the event. So make sure you take advantage of that promo code. Also, speaking of promo codes, our WomenGetIT .net website, there is a shop on there where you can get all your Women Get It and techie gear. So if you go on there and use the promo code LIVE, LIVE, you get 10% off your purchase. So there's a lot of great new merchandise on that site, so be sure to check it out. Also, we've been streaming today on Instagram, Facebook. We're live tweeting. So follow us on all the social media channels. We also have a LinkedIn group page. Also, if you go to our website, you will also find an invitation to join our Slack channel where we keep the conversation going. And if you guys have any questions about this, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys? Do you have Julie, you said you didn't even have a Facebook, did you?
I don't have Facebook, but okay. Julie.Danielson at Asurion.com.
Cool. And Ken, how do they tune into the show and how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, a couple of ways. SiriusXM channel 132 every day around 1 Eastern. If you don't have SiriusXM, we podcast each show daily on iTunes, Google Play. So that's a free resource on Apple Podcast. And then KenColemanShow.com, a great resource for you. So go check us out there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much, you guys, for joining the panel. Hopefully you'll come back and treat us again. But thank you for all your questions, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
Boom.
Boom.
Excellent.
That was great.
Good.